grew up making ravioli.
Ravioli.
I didn't have a grandmother that was Italian.
Ravioli.
The ravioli.
Homemade ravioli.
I'm a very mixed ethnicity.
Ravioli.
We all love ravioli. A lot of ravioli.
Ravioli delicious.
I was always envious of people who had roots.
Homemade ravioli.
What are we calling it? Ravioli tourism Extravaganza.
Yes, that's a name.
Ravioli tourism Extravaganza.
Open line extravaganza.
Ravioli tourism open line extravaganza.
Well, technically it's Ravioli Tourism Monthly Open Line Extravaganza.
A kind and gentle 3-hour tour of open lines and open hearts. I'm Adriene here with Olivia, host of Radio Ravioli. And this is Ravioli Tourism Monthly Open Lines Extravaganza, the podcast version, which is pretty much exactly the same as the live version, except that you cannot call in because we are not in the studio anymore. So you'll hear the phone number, but please don't call. The episode that you're about to hear was recorded live on Wednesday, January 8th, 2025. Happy New Year and all that. On WFMU, we were taking calls, playing your voice memos, music, all kinds of other recorded nonsense about the hellscape of health insurance. Stories, prices, time sunk. We wanted to know, how does health insurance and the healthcare system affect the way you approach your own health? I know for me that's a very kind of dramatic answer, dramatic question. It's a big thought. We took calls from 9 p.m. to midnight on the East Coast of the U.S. But before we get to the show, a reminder that this is all recorded live. The mix is live. The calls are live. It's all unscripted. It's an open lines call-in show. So you can call in, talk with us about your fears and your dreams, tell us your stories every second Wednesday of the month on WFMU or WFMU.org if you're not in the listening area. You can also send us a voice memo in advance if calling live isn't your thing. And you can send those to tourism@WFMU.org. Next month, we're talking about trees, stories of trees, the trees you know and love, adversarial trees, trees we've lost, trees that persist, stories, fables, pontifications, dreams, whatever it may be. And again, you can send those voice memos to us at tourism@WFMU.org if you want to share it on the show. Stay in touch with us. We also post show topics about a month in advance on WFMU.org. You can find us there at Ravioli Tourism, or maybe it's Ravioli Tourism Monthly Open Lines Extravaganza. We're also on Instagram at OHNO. That's OHNO0000. Also, if you're enjoying the podcast, rate, subscribe, leave a review, all the things that people who do podcasts constantly ask you to do. We also wouldn't hate it if you did it. So now on to Ravioli Tourism Monthly Open Lines Extravaganza, the health insurance edition.
Hey, you're listening to WFMU, Radio Ravioli with me, Olivia, here every Wednesday night from 9 p.m. until midnight. It is my first show of 2025. Happy New Year. I've been gone 2 weeks. Thank you to Becky, our honky-tonk radio girl who filled in for me on this show on Christmas Day, and thank you to Zoe B, who filled in last week on New Year's Day. It's funny coming back today, where it's a special show. It's not a regular music programming show. It is the show that we do the second Wednesday of every month, where we take calls, we open the lines up to you, the listeners, and we talk about a new theme each month. This month's theme is health insurance. It's really interesting, to say the least, doing it today as I'm getting news of what's happening in California, all the fires happening there, a lot of friends and family in California. I grew up there, and getting updates from them is heavy and tense, and my heart is going out to everyone who's been affected by the fires. seeing these issues pile up on top of each other, climate change, health insurance, which we're talking about it tonight, these like unresolving, persistent, complex systems that just keep leading to a lot of harm and really deeply affect how I think about the future and a kind of hopelessness that can arise when I'm really focusing too hard on it is what it's like existing in the world for me. So with that, we'll go into the show. Thanks for being here tonight. And give us a call, 201-209-9368 throughout the show.
Insurance Commissioner's Office, who persisted in keeping the insurance company in compliance. We enlisted the help of countless friends and family to hold the insurance company
Before the law,
the act.
there stands a God. A man comes from the country begging admittance to the law. But the God cannot admit him. Can he hope to enter at a later time? That is possible, says the God. The man tries to peer through the entrance. He had been taught that the law should be accessible to every man. Do not attempt to enter without my permission, says the God. I am very powerful, yet I am the least of all the gods. From hall to hall, door after door, each God is more powerful than the last. By the God's permission, the man sits down by the side of the door, and there he waits. For years, he waits. Everything he has, he gives away in the hope of bribing the God, who never fails to say to him, I take what you give me, only so that you will not feel that you have left something undone. Keeping his watch during the long years, the man has learned to know even the fleas in the God's fur collar. And growing childish in old age, he begs the very fleas to persuade the God to change his mind and allow him to enter. His sight is dimmed, but in the darkness he perceives a radiance streaming immortally from the door of the law. And now, before he dies, all his experience condenses into one question, a question he has never asked. He beckons to the God. Says the God, you are insatiable. What is it now? Says the man, every man strives to attain the law. How is it then that in all these years no one else has ever come here seeking admittance? His hearing has failed, so the God yells into his ear. No one else but you could ever have obtained admittance. No one else could enter this door. This door was intended only for you. And now, I am going to close it. This tale is told during the story called The Trial. It has been said that the logic of this story is the logic of a dream, of a nightmare.
This is the beginning of man's universal dialogue with life. A blind cry that seeks a clear answer.
A recent study in California shows that at least in that study, as much as
The beginning of the dialogue is constant and universal. The answers, the facts of life, change from age to age. Another place, another time. Dialogue. In the United States of America, the city of Chicago, 1931 AD. The questions were the same, but the answers were different. Statistics said lifespan 59 years. 2 to 1, he was born at home. Cost to parents, $50. Cost of medical equipment, $87.50, including the black bag. In his lifetime, a total of $1,700 for health care, mostly out of his own pocket. There was a new idea then, insurance to help pay hospital bills. But practically nobody had it. Only a generation ago. How much has changed within living memory? What was the state of our health in those good old days? Health care, like everything else, didn't cost much. $2 for a house call, $11 for a hospital room. Unfortunately, pneumonia was common and often fatal. Infectious diseases were epidemic. A hospital was where you went to die. And the cost of health care was as dreaded as the disease itself. The growth of the new idea of ensuring health care still belonged to that far-off world of tomorrow they dreamed about in the 30s. Where is yesterday's world of tomorrow? Where is the questioning baby that was born then? Somewhere in the crowd. An adult now, continuing his universal dialogue with life. The dialogue. The struggle between the power of knowledge and the limitation of life. Question, what is health? Ask our man somewhere.
I don't think there's such a thing as absolute health. It's the old story, we all begin to die as soon as we're born.
I think that there has to be a sensation of well-being to be called really healthy.
I think that good health is just feeling good. Then, of course, health means so many things to so many ages of people. A body is like an instrument, a very complicated machine. When every organ, every vital part is functioning to its most perfect performance. That is really what I mean by feeling good.
It means a good night's rest, a healthy appetite,
I had healthcare when I was a kid, but I also had parents that didn't trust the medical institutions. So I grew up going to like holistic doctors and using muscle testing and herbs and homeopathy and like clean eating over going to the doctor. I didn't have regular checkups. I didn't go to a dentist until I was in high school. And as I grew older, I've turned away from that as a practice. Like, I don't use crystals for healing or for like energy channeling anymore, and I don't use any herbs, except there's a couple that feel very comforting to me when I can't sleep or when I'm getting a cold, but I generally don't have a healthcare practice at home anymore. But I think that combined with the difficulty of getting healthcare as an adult has sort of left me in this weird no man's land, middle ground, where I don't do anything. I don't go to the doctor, and I also don't treat myself at home. I just am exhausted. It turns out I have healthcare. I make my income is small enough that I get free healthcare from New York. But it's just never been part of my life to go to the doctor. And I feel like I would like some of the benefits of modern medicine. But it's so complicated to me to find someone in my network. I don't know, maybe especially in New York, because there's so much here, and so much of it seems like absolute dog shit. And anyone I've ever been recommended, any doctor or therapist or treatment or place, has been out of my network, has been something that I've not been allowed to afford. That it doesn't seem possible. It seems like accessible healthcare is something that belongs to a different class of people. I just don't even try anymore. I did have incredibly good luck a couple years ago when I broke a bone, and I just had to go to whatever hospital was nearest, which happened to be a very good one, and just go with whatever doctor was available, which happened to be a very good one, and go to whatever physical therapy was available, which happened to be a very good one, and it all happened to be covered by my insurance, and it felt like a miracle, but one that just sort of happened, like not one that I could recreate. I haven't even really tried. It doesn't seem possible. Well, I do try. Every once in a while I try and find a therapist, or a doctor, but it seems that every single thing I want or need, I guess want, because I'm still alive and healthy without these things, but everything I would use the medical community for is something that's considered special and like a treat, a little treat that costs lots and lots of money. So I don't really understand how anything works, and it stresses me out so much that I just don't do it. And it just kind of makes me feel a little hopeless all the time.
It's Radio Ravioli, WFMU. Olivia here. I'm also joined with Adrienne. What's up, Adrienne?
Hey, Olivia.
Talking about health insurance and anything associated with it, whatever that means to you.
Whatever it means to you, and probably not positive. That's something I've been noticing.
Heavy. But we're in it together.
Heavy. Well, not really. Are we, though? We're all very isolated in this.
Well, tonight we're here together. In normal life, yeah, it's isolating and a lot. But that's why we have this show tonight, to swap stories, commiserate together.
Something I've been thinking about a lot. We've been kind of putting this show together for about a month now. I've been listening to a lot of people's stories, thinking about a lot of my own, and there's kind of almost a mystical quality to everybody's relationship to it. It's so, nobody has the same story, but everybody's story is equally as insane, as hellish, and as strange. Every little bit is so particular.
Yeah, well put. Well put. Same kind of helpless, dare I say, or like curious, exasperated kind of tone to it.
Frustrated, just endlessly absurd. Like the levels of absurdity as you push through it.
The levels, the layers.
Layers upon layers. Maze-like until it slowly builds a cancer within you that you then get denied treatment for.
Have you had anything recently where you're confronted once again with the frustrations?
Well, I have been a freelancer for my entire career. I've never had employer health insurance in my life. So I'm constantly confronted with it. We just ended, or we're about to end, open enrollment season. Anybody else who goes through that every year, I'm sure, has just confronted everything.
Yeah.
But I also broke my I sprained my ankle recently and had to go through the mental gymnastics of, do I go to the doctor? Do I get it treated?
Do I wait till next year to figure this out?
Do I wait till next year? How much is it going to cost?
Is your ankle okay?
No, it's very, very sprained.
Swollen?
I did.
Can you walk?
Yeah, I sprained it. I did end up going to urgent care. I didn't have... My insurance kicked in January. I didn't have insurance in December, so it was about a week before my insurance kicked in. I went to an urgent care in New York, and I paid out of pocket $225 for them to look at it, x-ray it, and basically give me peace of mind that it wasn't broken. They touched it, said, okay, it looks like it's pretty sprained, but probably not broken. They wrapped it, said it was okay. I was walking around on it, all day. It was wrapped, and I had kind of a longer boot on that I think kept it in place. Mm-hmm. And a couple hours later, I got a call from the doctor saying, actually, we looked at the x-ray again. It's possible it's fractured. Maybe. You should check again in a week or two. Yeah. So I've just been debating now for 2 weeks. Do I go back? Do I pay out of pocket again? Now I do have health insurance, terrible health insurance, but I have it. Do I try to go through the hoops of that? Or do I just keep it in a brace and...
The unknowing seems some of the most frustrating part.
Absolutely.
Well, this is just the beginning, folks. We are taking calls, hearing your stories. Give us a call, 201-209-9368. We should have someone on the line right now. Hi, you're on the air.
Hi, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Maybe talk a little bit closer to the mic, but I can hear you.
Okay, all right. How about now?
You're good. Welcome. We're talking about stories of health insurance. Do you have a story to tell us?
I do. One time I had a pulmonary embolism, and rather than calling the ambulance, I insisted on taking an Uber to the hospital. And I remember, even though I was very much about to die, I was like, I'm not paying for this because our health insurance doesn't cover an ambulance ride, so I need you to get me there really fast.
Wait, so you're using an Uber to basically be your ambulance?
Yes, definitely.
How was that experience? How did you have to wait for the Uber, 15 minutes?
Yeah, it was 6 minutes-ish. And my partner helped me and rode with me. And I could tell the driver was so stressed. And I'm clenching my heart. And he's trying to tell me that he knows what's going on, and like is like, you probably have some hole in your heart. He's like diagnosing me.
Was it clear that you were
it was really messed up.
How was it? Tell me more about the relationship with your Uber driver and how much they were in on it and knowing things.
I mean, I came down the steps and I'm like, and he could see I'm heading to the hospital. So he like knows it's an emergency, and he's just like talking to me like concerned dad energy while also trying to quickly get me to the hospital. It was kind of uncomfortable, but then kind of comforting.
That's heavy.
Yeah, it was a lot. But I did save money.
Yeah, thousands, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
Have you ever had to call an ambulance?
What'd you say?
Have you ever called an ambulance for real?
I definitely did, like, the next pulmonary embolism I had. That was definitely a moment where I was like, okay, an ambulance is probably the way to go.
And did you get the bill after?
I got there a lot faster. That's what you said.
That's a perk, getting there faster. I was asking, like, how was your bill for that second time?
Oh my goodness, it was like over thousands and thousands. Like, yeah. It was a lot.
Thank you so much for your call.
Yeah, for sure.
Have a good night.
All right, you too.
When to call or not to call an ambulance?
Have you ever called an ambulance?
For my grandmother one time, yes. She had a brain tumor, and it was early stages of going on with that, and she was not in her body as much and kind of wasn't connecting the brain with the body, and it felt like an emergency.
That last caller, and whether or not to call it an ambulance on something that's like life-threatening, or even if it's not life-threatening, has the potential to be incredibly lasting. When we're thinking about health insurance, it's so kind of incredible how high the stakes are, and we laugh about it because it's so absurd. But it's such a reminder.
I'm just imagining the fear that was happening in that Uber ride. The tension that was existing in that car.
I took an Uber once to an urgent care clinic when I threw out my back really badly. And the Uber driver, knew I was going to urgent care, and he was such a sweetheart. He was like really actively avoiding every pothole, and he kept asking me if I wanted him to go a little faster but risk the bumps of the road, or if I wanted him to go a little slower to make sure not to hit the potholes, because it was my back that had been thrown out, so every movement was really painful. It seemed like maybe he'd done that before.
Yeah. I was curious about asking our last caller that, if their Uber driver had experienced things like this before. If you're an Uber driver and you've driven someone to the hospital, give us a call.
201-209-9368.
We're getting a call
help.
right now.
Yeah.
I'll take it. Hey, you're on the air. We've been talking about health
Olivia,
insurance.
how you doing?
Good, how are you?
Oh, I'm okay. Well, my insurance nightmare took place, this was quite a while ago. It was in 1992. I was out in Death Valley with my girlfriend at the time, and I had a Toyota Land Cruiser, and we were on this lonely stretch of highway, and it was a very threatening sky, and we were just trying to get home back in Los Angeles. And neither of us know what happened, but I flipped the truck over going about 70 miles an hour, and it went end over end about 3 times, and then was pointed in the opposite direction. I had to crawl out the back hatch because the front was all caved in. And the only way I survived is because I had my seatbelt on, because I broke the windshield with my face. Well, soon enough, these guys on dirt bikes came up and they found us just like marooned out there. So one of them rode into a small town called Furnace Creek. This was way before cell phones, and called the Inyokern rescue. And by this time, I was going into shock, and so was my girlfriend. And I had been wandering around in the desert picking up all our stuff that was scattered from our camping trip, like my favorite coffee pot for one, but everything else as well. We were airlifted to Las Vegas, and I totally lost consciousness. And we woke up in the emergency room, and it was we spent the night there for observation, but being that we merely had concussions, we were released the next day. The problem was they had cut all our clothes off in the helicopter. So we went into the hospital naked. And then to release us, at most hospitals, they have like a place where there's a lot of clothes donations. And they gave us some ill-fitting shoes and paper slippers and then kicked us out of the hospital. Well, no, they did get us a cab ride to a supermarket, and by this time it was pouring rain. Well, I did have my wallet, fortunately. They dug my wallet out of my pants, but that's all I had. And we were inside the supermarket, and I was trying to remember my PIN number, because we were going to fly home to Los Angeles. And I couldn't remember it, and we spent about 20 minutes trying every variable. And finally we came up with it, and we got some money to buy tickets at the airport. And we were standing outside of the supermarket, and it was pouring rain. And there was this guy that had driven a semi full of oranges from Arizona, and he was just looking at us. And the truck was parked in the parking lot getting soaking wet. And he just he said, "Do you mind if I ask what happened to you?" And we told him, and he was just like utterly in disbelief. Because we're covered with blood, especially me. My face was all cut up from the windshield glass. Well, we got to the airport, and we had to wait for the plane back to Los Angeles. So we just started playing the slot machines in the lobby of the airport because we had nothing else to do. Well, we got home, took a cab home, and then I called my parents because I didn't want them to worry. And they came. Well, that we were home. We were safe, and we weren't seriously injured. But then the insurance problem started. First of all, the ride on the helicopter, I had insurance. I actually had fairly good insurance. I had Blue Shield at the time. But there's a provision in most insurance policies that they will not cover a helicopter ride to the hospital. And the helicopter ride was $20,000. And I made this decision, whether right or wrong, ethically. I said, I'm not going to pay that. Because at the time I had $10,000 in the bank. That's all the money I had. So I went to my insurance company, my auto insurance company, and I explained the situation. And the guy who was the agent was just the worst possible person. And he started waving his finger in my face like the school principal in junior high, telling me that I absolutely had to pay this and I couldn't drive around without insurance. Well, I went home and took all my money out of the bank and gave it to my mother. I said, they're going to come after me. And sure enough, they did. And I had collection agencies on me. And they would call me constantly, and I was at home a lot because at that time there was like a downturn in my employment and I wasn't working very much. So I would just put the phone down on the kitchen table and then pick it up like half an hour later and said, I think I saw him going to the laundromat, when it was just baloney. But
wow.
Well, after that, it was just, they were just on me constantly. And since I did not have anything, I was a renter at the time. I was a renter. they just made my life like living hell coming after me. And, my girlfriend, there was a provision, she got $20,000, and the same insurance agent who waved his finger said, do not give him any money. You know? So she went to Ecuador, and I went to Vietnam, and that was the end of our relationships. But now I have very good insurance,
are they hounding
thanks to my
you?
partner. I have Kaiser, you know, because she works for the city of Los Angeles, and you know, and it has been really good. They have treated me really well, but they've had some really serious problems, and they've, you know, and I almost died, and they treated me really correctly. But I find that every time I go for an unscheduled visit, it's just the same thing that everyone else experiences, you know. Because I thought I was really lucky that I drew a lucky straw, until a couple of times that I had something else wrong with me, and I had to go to the doctor, and then I had to wait like a month, you know, and squirming in pain.
Thank you so much for this call.
Story.
Thank you so much. That is quite a story. Have a great night.
Okay, bye.
Oh, the odyssey of it all.
That was, yeah. Going in a helicopter, flipping in the air, going in a helicopter, having to be covered in blood, thousands and thousands of dollars of hospital bills.
It starts with a story and then it ends with a story. You can't, there's the specificity of how you get into medical debt, how you get into having to deal with the insurance. It's like the prologue to what ends up happening.
And the absolute control it can have over you, and needing to kind of flee and go to a different place if you're going to shirk on those responsibilities of paying it back, I guess. Responsibilities that you didn't necessarily ask for. We have another call. What were you going to say?
There's been recent news that medical debt is no longer part of credit scores. I don't know how that changes it, but that's new. Something new.
I wonder how that affects this story, this caller.
Well.
Hi, you're on the air.
Hi, Olivia and Adrienne, right?
Yes. Yes. How are you?
It's Kate in Brooklyn. I wanted to call in just because I've had a big shift in my health insurance, and also a big shift in my health within the past year and a half, and I just wanted to add that to the conversation. So I was a freelance and sort of cobbling many part-time jobs together that none of them had health insurance as a freelance artist and educator for like 20 years, and I was lucky because my partner had health insurance through his job that could cover me. But sometimes it wasn't the greatest health insurance, but it didn't really matter because we didn't really have that many health issues. It doesn't matter until it matters, right? And then a little over a year ago, first I became a full-time public school teacher in New York City, which means I had a union behind me and I had health insurance in a way that I didn't understand how good it was yet until right after that. I had a seizure for the first time in my life last November, and was taken to the hospital. I'd never had a seizure before. I'd never been to a hospital before. I'd never had a health issue like this before. And then, so all that happened. I'm okay. I was diagnosed with epilepsy. All is fine. But then we started to get, when we were in the emergency room, they're asking for health insurance, and we were giving them the health insurance that we had at the time through my partner's job, because the new health insurance through my school job hadn't kicked in yet. We didn't have cards yet. And so we started to get these bills afterwards that were fairly large, 4-digit bills that for the kind of work that we do, the kind of income that we have, that we were like, wow, this is going to be terrifying. Like we got one from the FDNY just for the ambulance, which was a 4-digit bill. Could be more than that, right? So I guess I should be grateful. But we started to kind of freak out, and then like the city's insurance for teachers or for city employees in general in New York City is very, very good. And so there were my partner got on the phone a lot because I was off at school teaching and started navigating the web of working this stuff out, which it does. It takes even if you have good insurance, I feel like, and you have health problems, it takes hours on the phone to kind of navigate bills, right? To make sure that even if you have good health insurance, that the bills are being paid, and it just takes a lot of time and energy and care. But we figured out, when we started to say, no, we have the city health insurance, then kind of all these bills went away, right? Like the bills were covered, right, from my new union-backed, full-time job as a teacher, which I was really, really grateful for. We were very, very grateful for. But I do have to say, coming off of just years of being, in the artist hustle, doing freelance work or part-time work, cobbling together, all of that, I just, in the gratitude that I feel for the new healthcare status that I have, coupled with my new having focal epilepsy and needing to think about that and care for myself in a new way, I'm also just it doesn't make sense to me that I have this privilege because of my job that I didn't have before. It just, when I think about the UK and United Healthcare, and people complain about that in the UK too, but it's just it's so weird. Even when you get an opportunity with healthcare and coverage that you should have, it feels strange that everyone should have it. And so I just want to call in and say that.
Thank you so much for your call, talking truths, many deep truths, realities. It's interesting knowing both sides of the spectrum, what that is like. Going from being a freelance artist to having a union-backed job where you have more reliable health care. And then also trying to balance, new conditions that come up in life. It's a weird thing, having health care tied to your employment.
And it's a weird thing to be grateful for a 4-digit bill for an ambulance. Grateful.
Yeah, it could be worse. The constant thing we're throwing over.
I remember once I got a surprise $800 bill for a surgery. I'd had a thing removed off my hand, and I got this surprise $800 bill from the anesthesiologist that came in months and months and months after all the other bills had come in. So I thought I'd already done it. And I remember thinking, oh, good, it's only $800. It's only going to take me 3 months to pay it off. It's only $800.
But hey, it could be worse, right?
It could be worse. Could be worse.
Hi, you're on the air.
Hi, how's it going, guys?
Good, how are you? We've been talking about health insurance.
Yeah, I heard. I do listen on the mobile app, so I don't know what you guys have been talking about for the last few minutes. But I did want to call in just because, obviously this is a topic that everybody has, it affects everybody. And everyone knows how terrible it all is. I just wanted to call in and offer a different perspective because, I really related to the recording you played earlier about the woman who, when she thought about navigating the system of it all and signing up and everything, she just felt hopeless, and I had some health stuff where a couple of years ago I felt so hopeless, and like just the thought of trying to get health insurance was like, it just was like, I can't even think about it. But I did get the health insurance, after like so much persistence and like so much anxiety, and got the medicine I needed, and the medicine is helping. So, if there's anybody out there listening that feels hopeless and feels like they can never get the help they need, I did it. I know everything's terrible, but it is possible. So I just wanted to put that out there that it's, keep trying, and, you might be surprised.
Thank you so much for that input. I think it's some much needed optimism, I guess, in this amongst it all.
But it's important. I mean, something I wonder, and if anybody out there has their own thoughts about this, is just how much the health insurance system, the absolute nightmare, the bureaucracy of it, the cost of it, the uncertainty of the cost of it, how has that changed the way that you actually deal with your own health care? How does that change the way that you take care of yourself? It's a really, it's a big thought.
Yeah. Approaching these alternate forms of healing that we were kind of talking about earlier. Also, I do find it really difficult. I guess it's nice, it's reassuring to hear that other people feel that way too, of like just wanting to like pull the covers up over my eyes and avoid it all, escape it, just try not to think about it, get statements of detailing my bill and my coverage and my benefits. I just kind of, set it aside gently and pat it on So it is very intimidating, and it's but we have to figure out a way, I guess, to navigate it all for our own health.
Yeah. I mean, I know that for myself, I have a pretty regular migraines. I have a couple of pretty significant migraines a month, and it took me maybe 10 years to really seek care for it because of the uncertainty of the system and having a precarious income. Almost 10 years. And I mean, I still don't have it figured out, but without that bureaucracy and without that cost, who knows?
Well, also going back to how this affects how you think about your own health and the way you approach your life. Just growing up and going to the doctor wasn't a regular thing in my family. We didn't have insurance, or we had bad insurance, or what. It was still expensive no matter what was going on. My parents were both worked in restaurants and didn't have the steadiest of, like the surplus of income, I guess you could say. So it was always just like, yeah, we just get through it. I don't know, take an aspirin.
Think positive thoughts.
Yeah. Here's some Dayquil, get over it.
Meditate it away.
Meditate it away, yeah. I mean, yeah, my dad is a big stoner and has had many health problems in his life, and I'm sure it's related in some part to his lack of insurance. Hi, you're on the air.
Hello.
Hi, you're on the air.
Oh, good to know. I'm calling with some perspective on someone who's new to Medicare.
New to Medicare.
Trying to navigate that and my backup insurance plan that I had as a retiree plan for 4 years since I retired. And then had to mandatorily change to another plan that went from 90-10 to 80-20, 20% owed by me. And then plus the expense of Medicare, which I wasn't expecting any of that. So, and the person in the Social Security office who helped me sign up for all this and navigate all this, and said, well, when I retire, I'm going to be paying more for health insurance than I ever have because of the mandatory thing about Medicare. Right now, I'm just getting used to the slow pace of it and the vagaries of their rules and the uncertainty as to what they cover and what what they don't cover, and so I've had to send bills back to my insurance company and say, can you please figure this out? And they said, okay, well, they didn't send that to Medicare. They should have done that first. So it's been a little stressful, but I'm just trying to be vigilant and figure out, like, what is all this going to cost me? And the only upside to this is that it's what we have, and it may be threatened, and we may not have it in the form that it is now. I mean, if they're talking about making cuts to these programs in the government, what do we do?
Yeah,
How do we
completely.
secure the system that we have, the ACA, and the Medicare?
How much do you pay for your Medicare?
For what?
For Medicare.
It's the rate in 2024. I've only been on it since September. It was $171 and change, and it's going up to $185 in 2025 a month.
And that changes based on your income in life?
I think it goes up. It goes up each year
as you get older.
Rate. And you pay the first. My first payment was 4 months. I paid the first 4 months, and then that was over $700. And then the next payment is $585, I think, or $560. And that's for the following 3 months. So it's like quarterly billings that they do. So that's something you have to budget for. In addition to paying your medical bills all along as they keep coming in, because there will be co-payments and deductibles that you're responsible for, even if you have a backup plan like I do. I worked in the Ivy League, and I had really good insurance with my institution, and I wasn't paying all that much after I retired, but it has gone to where I'm like paying more in terms of like out of pocket now. But it is still a better alternative to even COBRA, which is like one thing available to people that don't have health insurance and don't get the ACA.
Yeah. Thank you so much for dropping this knowledge on us, sharing information. Have a great night.
Thank you.
We are taking calls about health insurance. It is WFMU East Orange, WMFU Mount Hope in New York City and Rockland County, 91.9 FM, and online WFMU.org. The number to call is 201-209-9368.
It's so important, I think, to get numbers. I'm so curious about everybody's numbers. How much are you paying? What is that relative to your income? I mean, again, I'm on ACA plans. I've always been, and I think I did the numbers earlier. I pay about, for a low premium, high deductible plan, I pay about 8% of my income just to the premium. That doesn't include the deductible.
Just monthly?
Just monthly, yeah. Over the year, I pay about 8% of my projected income to just the premium. And that's for something that also has a $7,000 deductible and a $9,000 out of pocket.
It's so crazy.
It's crazy. I pay very close to what I pay in rent for my health insurance, and it's one of the lowest plans I can get. It's a terrible plan.
Yeah, that's what that was going to be my next point. Like, you're paying this much, and what does that get you?
Very little. Very, very little. Yeah, but what are you going to do? There is no good plan, I think. If you're you may have I think people who have good employee-based healthcare, which your company is paying an insane amount, so that's a different issue, but maybe there's good plans there. But I can tell you, as someone who's really been in the marketplace, there's no such thing as a good plan.
Well, up until recently, I was getting insurance through my employer, and then I switched jobs and have been freelancing basically and don't get insurance through work anymore. And I definitely took for granted the ease of what it is like to get insurance through your employer. I never thought about it. I mean, you had annoying copays. I'm not someone who goes to the doctor a lot. I'm privileged in that way, so don't have ongoing health issues. So I, used it when I needed it and didn't think about it much else beyond that. But now that I'm in the marketplace and wasn't uninsured for a lot of last year as well, it was a new relationship, and trying to get insurance this last month was extremely intimidating and odd and confusing.
Well, I know we've talked about this off air, but let me on air welcome you to the marketplace.
Thank you.
Welcome,
Thank you.
welcome,
Take a bow.
welcome.
Take a bow.
Welcome. If anybody else is new to the marketplace, I mean, the other part of this that's kind of terrible and fascinating and hellish and all the things is just, do you understand your plan? Do you actually understand what is the co-insurance? What is the copay? Is it an HMO? Is it a PPO? What does that mean for you? What's your premium? What's your deductible? What's your out-of-pocket? What counts to your out-of-pocket? What counts to your deductible? What doesn't? Call in, explain your plans to us. Tell us what the plans are to the best of your ability.
We have a call. We did have another caller on the line, but that fell through, so please give us a call back, 201-209-9368. Hi, you're on the air.
Hello.
Hey.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
My medical insurance I got it through work, is only $30 a week.
Okay, do you get it through your job, or did you go through the marketplace?
Through my job, they took $30 out of my paycheck a week.
Okay, how's that going?
I wound up needing eye surgery. The eye surgery was a couple $1,000s, and I only paid $120 for the surgery.
What? How did you score this?
I was skateboarding on a half pipe. It was about a 6-foot high half pipe. I fell flat on my face, and I split my eye open right above my eye. And I'm one of those ice pack guys, but I needed medical attention. I had to go to the hospital, and it turns out I wound up needing eye surgery. But it's not that ice pack stuff, smoke some weed. That only gets you so far till something messed up happens. So a lot of my coworkers wouldn't get the insurance because they didn't want the $30 taken out of their paycheck. But if I didn't get it, I would have had a real problem on my hands. And if you don't want to pay your medical bills, you don't have to. But when you go to the hospital, when you go to these doctors' offices, they won't help you. They'll treat you like a second-class citizen if you're not going to pay anything, because they could tell your medical if you do or don't have medical insurance. If you don't have medical insurance, they probably won't even help you. That's just the reality of it. So that's all I got to say.
That is the sad reality. Thanks so much for your call.
Thank you.
I spend a lot of time thinking about health insurance. I have multiple chronic conditions that require frequent medical care and also medications, but I'm also, as part of my job, responsible for managing the health benefits of a small business of 14 people. We don't all use the insurance, but most of us do. And the way it breaks down for us is that the company pays 62% of our premium costs and the employees pay 38%. So in my case, and it depends based on your age, my cost per paycheck for my premium is $129.22. So you multiply that by 26, and that's my yearly cost. My deductible, so the amount of money that I have to pay before insurance starts to kick in, for Tier 1 preferred providers is $1,150, and then for Tier 2 providers is $2,500. My out-of-pocket max, so the number that you have to pay before insurance covers everything, and by everything I mean insured costs. Not everything is insured, and so not everything is included in your out-of-pocket max. Pro tip, Tier 1, it's $8,000. In Tier 2, it's $9,000. And it's possible to pay more if you have providers that are Tier 1 and Tier 2. So most people try to stay within Tier 1. My company total per year of their share, so, you know, $67,561.56 per year, which each year we have to make a decision. You know, is it going to cost too much money to stay with this insurance? Do we have to switch insurance? Is it going to be too hard for people to find new doctors? It's always chaotic, and you have to make a lot of choices and balance what's good for employees versus what's good for the company, and is the company going to be sustainable with rising costs? And the answer is that the costs are untenable for everybody. And I've seen it from the perspective of the employed and from the point of view of the company itself. It's hard, and it's going to require a lot of reform, and it's not going to be easy.
Hi, you're on the air.
Hi.
Hi, do you have
Yeah, I'm calling about health insurance.
Yes.
Yeah. I just wanted to say that the health insurance, I'm a little bit older, so I've seen health insurance change so drastically.
I'd love to hear
over
about
the years.
that. Yeah.
And I went from, my dad was in the military, where you just walk into the doctor's office. So in the military, I'm pretty sure it's just like that. Anybody in the military and their families can walk in, to health insurance where you could just walk in and it was just, given. And then when I started working, you just signed a little form and health insurance was just available. Also, nobody talked about it, but by the time I retired, I was paying like $400 and $500 a month for health insurance. And I feel very fortunate. I'm now, on Medicare, but it's still complicated. Which system do you want? Oh, do you want an HMO or a PPO? So it never ends. And I hope there's more and more conversations like you're monitoring and putting on the air now, because something's got to change.
Thank you so much for everything you were saying. What was your job that you had insurance through?
Thank you.
Oh, are you still there? We'll leave that up to our imaginations. Give us a call, 201-209-9368. We're taking calls about health insurance if you're just tuning in.
What was your job?
Hi, you're on the air.
Hello?
Hi, you're on the air.
Oh, hi. Yeah, I want to talk about how I am on Medicaid. I'm on Health First Medicaid. I make less than $21,000 a year. And it is, what somebody was saying before with, being part of a union and just being everybody should have this health care. Medicaid is... I got really insane back surgery, and everything was covered. My physical therapy was covered. Ridiculous things are covered, and everybody should have this. It's really insane that people aren't just covered by taxes.
So you're saying that you...
If an ambulance goes by.
Yeah, perfect timing. Can you clarify for me? You're saying you get insurance through Medicaid and it's working really well for you?
Yeah, I get my insurance through Health First Medicaid, and I make like less than $21,000 a year is the threshold. And yeah, it's the best insurance I've ever had. It's really like everybody should have it. Everybody should be able to access this and also not have to be like making poverty wages to get good health care.
Yeah, I mean, that's the constant struggle, right? Trying to decide, should I make more so I can afford a couple more things in life? Or should I stay within this bracket of making money so that I get really good health care? It's a weird, tricky kind of balance you have to play.
Yeah. It's like I've had friends that like were on, you know, when they were like a barista, they were on Health First Medicaid and then like got a good job and like nonprofit stuff. And then, you know, I think in between some jobs, they got to get back on Medicaid, and they were like, okay, I'm going to book all of my appointments. I'm going to go, like, balls to the wall, like, really just go to every single healthcare professional I could go to while I have this free insurance, because it's so wild. It's just everybody should be able to have free healthcare.
I hear you.
Like, we can fund wars, but we can't fund healthcare. It's really insane.
Thank you so much for your call.
Thank you so much for this conversation.
Health First Medicaid. I was on Health First Medicaid once. It was great. It was great.
The glory days.
The glory days when I couldn't pay my rent, but I could go to the doctor. I have these really terrible migraines, very, very debilitating migraines. They keep me a little bit from being able to hold down certain kinds of full-time work because they cause me to vomit. They happen very, very frequently. They last for a long time. And it took me a long time to get care for them, or to try to get care. And there was a point in time when I had Health First Medicaid where I was doing exactly what the last caller was saying. I was just going to every doctor I could, seeing every neurologist I could, sleep doctors, everybody I could. And I had a neurologist order an MRI to make sure that it wasn't something else, just because of some of my symptoms. I got an MRI, and I got a call the next day from after I'd had this MRI saying they wanted me to come in like immediately. They were trying to book me for that day or the next morning because they saw something on the MRI that they thought might be, I think the phrasing they used was tiny possible aneurysms, which is very scary.
Not scary at all, yeah.
No, yeah, just totally calm,
casual,
no problem. Very calm, casual. And they said, we want to get you in immediately to see what that is, to make sure that that isn't that, and if it is, to deal with it. So I was worried, and I looked up, what are the symptoms of aneurysms rupturing? Turns out the symptoms are the same as having a migraine. That I was supposed to go in the next morning to have the CT with contrast so they could check. And they called me and said, the insurance denied it. So if you come in for the CT, you need to pay out of pocket, and then hopefully the insurance will reimburse you. And I think it was close to $10,000 for me to come in and pay out of pocket. And otherwise we'll have to fight this, and it'll take a while to get you in. It took, I think, almost 2 weeks for them to get it approved. And it's because the wrong person had signed the paper, like a nurse had signed instead of the doctor kind of thing. And I spent this 2 weeks just believing that I had these little aneurysms that were just going to rupture in my brain at any moment.
No, just terrified.
Terrified. Like a doctor calls you to say, you got to come in. And
today, I'm taking everything off my calendar. Oh, wait, hold up. The insurance won't.
Never mind, chill out. It's cool.
I'm sure it'll be fine.
It'll be good.
Wow. The mental hoops, the trouble for the psyche that this all creates for us is something else.
It turned out I didn't have aneurysms, but that experience probably gave me some.
That would be quite the twist of this story.
I have no doubt that happens. I have no doubt that the stress of dealing with healthcare and also the delay of getting care is actively giving people all kinds of things. There's no doubt in my mind that that's happening.
It is very stressful. I mean, another thing to consider too is, using insurance to get affordable therapy, mental health. I think therapy wasn't really something I just thought I needed or was accessible. It seemed too, again, kind of intimidating and I don't know, until a few years ago when I was able to get it. I think at first I wasn't doing it in my network, so it was really, really a few $100s a session. Then I found one that was only $50 and then $25 copay. And those definitely changed my life, and was a big negotiation I had mentally as I was leaving my job of should I stay so I can stay with therapy? Maybe I'm okay for now. Maybe I've just been in this system, I've learned a lot. I have tools I can use. Maybe I can go a little, maybe it'll be good for me. Maybe it's fine, trying to justify.
Does your current plan cover it? Or are you still out of it?
So yeah, I just got insurance with the new year, and that was a big consideration because I don't have medications that I'm on. It doesn't, and I rarely have conditions where I have to go to the hospital or something. So I was okay, I think I don't care about anything else, but this one, I think it's a $50, might be $30 copay. So that was my main consideration when looking through all the plans, was in the marketplace or whatever, how you can see all the things that you get for it. That was the only thing I was looking at, just so I could have that chance to keep going again in this new year after 6 months of not being able to even really consider it.
Ugh. And that's mental health. And we had dental and vision, so many things. No access.
So many things. Give us a call, folks. 201-209-9368. As Adrienne was saying earlier, we want to hear specifics. We want to hear how much your copay is, what your out-of-pocket max is. If you reached your deductible last year, we want to know.
This is the time to get things done. Hit your deductible early. Schedule all your procedures in January.
Last year, I had to get 2 of my wisdom teeth removed, which was fine. I mean, it wasn't fine. I was dreading it because I wasn't put under because it would cost too much and I didn't have enough. My dental coverage wouldn't cover being knocked out. So they put me under laughing gas or nitrous or whatever. And they numbed, the left side of my mouth. And it was just an overall, one of the worst experiences of my life, where I lay there and emotionally, not physically, it just felt like the dentist had his foot on my chest while he was yanking the impacted tooth out of the back of my mouth. And I just the vibes were off, and they had to pause, like it was impacted, so they had to like saw it, and I kept hearing the dentist go, okay, a little pressure. And he's just like tugging, like yanking my tooth out of my mouth. And it was like, it reminded me that we are all just like fallible human beings. Okay, but I went through all of that, and there had to be like a pause after the first wisdom tooth was taken out. And I went to the dental assistant, and I was like, okay, what does the nitrous do? Like, what does the laughing gas do? Because you're not laughing. And he was like, it's supposed to mellow you out, like a glass of wine. And he was like, is it working? And I was like, no, I am bummed out during this entire experience. I am not mellow. I am wiggling my toes because that's supposed to put me in like a zen spot to like calm down. Somehow, because of this, I'm just very aware of my own mortality. And we could just yank stuff out of people's mouths. So the dental assistant was like, do you want me to turn up the nitrous? And I was like, he was like, it's also as high as it can go. And I was like, you can try. And he was like, well, it's your money. And I was like, what? That was the response I got. It was like, I'm in pain. I'm just like in a general malaise after just like the torture I've been in for like an hour and a half. And all I got was a dental assistant being like, well, it's your money. And I was like, well, it was my money, because I did have to like save up and pay for this unpleasant experience. And then like afterwards, like my friend picked me up, and I guess she thought that I would be like fun. You know, like those YouTube videos of the friend after getting their wisdom teeth removed, where they just start saying wacky stuff and like it could go viral. And it was not, I did not have that experience. I just looked like a sad lady walking out of the dentist's office, like kind of wanting to cry, kind of just like in a full Charlie Brown slump of just like the physical and emotional toil that I could only afford because I couldn't pay to be knocked out. And then I still, after that, had to walk to the pharmacy to get my prescriptions for this thing. And I had to like wait. It was, and I paid for it. That's all I can remember about that whole experience is the dental assistant saying, it's your money. And I was like, oh, I mean, that's true. But also, it shouldn't be. If I was in Europe, I would have been knocked out. I would have woken up with the cotton balls in my mouth. And it would have been all gravy.
Anybody remember how they got here?
I was eating dinner. Pierogies, cheese and potato. I ran out of sour cream and then I went to the fridge and I just went to bed and
What's your house?
middle of the night. Just a chill. Only the government could build something this ugly.
Oh, it ain't government.
Then what is it?
I don't know. Please. We're spooked enough as it is. Let's rule out aliens for now and concentrate on what we know.
My mom's gonna break.
Renz,
Just won't be there. They'll break.
what do you think, Renz?
We won't solve jack shit sitting still. I'm moving in a straight line till I get to the end.
All right, I tend to agree.
Shouldn't we wait here? For what? To see if anybody comes?
No one's gonna come. Look, there's a way in here, so there's gotta be a way out. We can avoid the traps using the boot. Holloway, is it? What do you think? For an exit?
Okay.
What about you?
It can't be that simple. It won't be that simple. Look around. Take a good long look-see. Cause I got a feeling it's looking at us.
Just want to wake up.
Is enacted are now underinsured for two principal reasons. This is an addition.
It's WFMU, and we are talking about health insurance, whatever that means for you, how you approach your health, details about your plan, crazy stories that have happened to you. Give us a call, 201-209-9368. We want to hear from you. I heard from a few friends before the show. One said that they pay $500 a month on their own through the New Jersey insurance market. They're a contract employee for a full year. They also work at a major international fashion company, and they're spending $500 of their own out of pocket each month for care. Another friend said that someone also take antidepressants, and the insurance company keeps trying to not cover it, even though her psychiatrist has proof that they've tried many others and this is the only one that works for her. Only last year did the company finally cover the full cost. She was paying $150 a month for 30 days of antidepressants before that. Now it's covered. And a few people have setups where the company and them share the cost of paying for insurance, which I haven't experienced that. Have you experienced that, Adrienne?
I've never had any help with my insurance from any kind of employer or client or anything like that. No.
Yeah, this was a common thing I heard from a couple people where they pay like $50 to $100 a month and the work covers the rest. But similarly, like, it's still bad care. And like, one person had an annual PAP test where they still got, it was supposed to be covered, but then they got a bill for $200 for a lab test because it was like, we cover you to see the doctor, but we're not covering the actual test that they're doing.
This has happened to me before where I went in for like the yearly physical and I talked about migraines with my doctor and that got logged, and then I had to pay for the visit because we talked about something outside the scope of the yearly physical. And I've heard of this happening to a lot of people. I think it's pretty common.
That's insane.
Insane. It's supposed to be a check-in. That's part of my check-in. But no.
201-209-9368. Join the conversation.
Now, Olivia, you're new to having to pick your own plans, right? Because you've just joined the marketplace. What have you learned?
I was very ignorant about different names of insurance companies. like before I had United Healthcare and just like didn't know any other insurances that existed. Now I have Aetna, something else. I also got dental insurance for now. I'm not getting paid. My income is very low right now, and which I'm hoping changes, but it means that my insurance is pretty cheap as well.
You're getting a big subsidy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
State's helping me out a little bit.
What is the New Jersey state thing called? Like New York, it's called the New York State of Health, right? What's the New Jersey one?
I think it's Get Covered NJ.
Get Covered NJ.
Which was also, I was texting you, I was calling you, because I know you've been through it and know the landscape a lot more than me, even though it changes state by state. I was just like, where do I even begin? Like, what do I Google? How do I know this is a real link? How do I know I'm not getting scammed?
This was kind of among other unmentioned things, you know, is the catalyst for the show, right? It's this joining of the marketplace.
Yeah, exactly. Like, what is this? Literally, what does this all mean?
But it's complicated. I mean, I think people don't realize when they're eligible for things a lot of the times because of how obscure a lot of the language is. And it's different state to state. If you move states, if you move zip codes, it can all change on you very quickly.
Well put.
I'm in Florida now, and Florida doesn't have its own thing because it's just the healthcare.gov thing. But like switching from I've kind of figured out the ins and outs of the New York State of Health to going to the healthcare.gov federal, like the main big one. I mean, you have to basically relearn the whole thing.
How is that process?
It's terrible. I mean, it's all terrible. There's nothing redeeming about it.
Do you have any... Does it get easier with time, or what's your coping mechanisms? How have those changed?
I think it gets harder with time, if anything, because I think as you're going, it changes every year, right? I mean, at least for me, because my income can change by potentially tens of thousands of dollars in a year. And I dip in and out of being eligible for a big subsidy to being eligible for very little to no subsidy. And so every year I have to basically redo everything, the entire thought process. I have to gamble with whether or not I think I'm going to use it a lot. And also all the plans kind of will slightly change on you too. The numbers will go up, the deductibles will go up. A plan that had a reasonable deductible last time suddenly has a high deductible. So you're kind of, I mean, there's just aren't good answers in it. And I think the further into it you go, the more you realize there aren't good answers. And the more you realize there aren't good answers, the more you're defeated by it, right? I don't know. I'm curious if there's any other, anyone else out there who's sort of dealt with that for a long time. Has anybody ever found a good plan this way? I mean, outside of employer healthcare, does anybody out there have a good plan? Have you ever found a good plan?
I'm also curious to hear from listeners who might be a little bit older than us and have some more insight on what the health insurance landscape has been like for them. One of our callers earlier was alluding to that. Just, has it always been so bad? Was it bad in other ways?
Give us a call at 201-209-9368. Talking anything about health insurance. We love the specifics. I mean, love is the wrong word, of course, but
appreciate
the specifics, the kind of, it's almost mythological the way these stories play out. So unique, each one, so terrible, each one. Tell us with your stories, or your numbers. You know, I think we all sit alone and don't know if $1,000 is expensive for surgery or not. Some of us are excited when it's only 4 digits in the bill. Some of us are relieved when it's only $100. And some of us have never had to pay a copay. So give us a call with your numbers, 201-209-9368.
We had an interesting encounter with our insurance back when I was pregnant with our middle child. I believe we had Oxford back then. I'm pretty sure it was Oxford. You know, these providers, every year there's a new provider, new rules, new numbers, new doctors. It's really hard to remember. Anyway, in the middle of the pregnancy, baby's head started pushing in my sciatic nerve, and I developed this incredible sciatic pain, and I couldn't focus on anything else beside it. And every week it was growing. By the end of the 9 months, I couldn't walk, never mind think about anything besides that pain. When the time came to go to the hospital, I couldn't even tell whether I should go to the hospital, whether it was leg, whether it was something else. Anyway, we went. My husband pulled the car across the front lawn to the front door. I couldn't even make it to the sidewalk. At the hospital, it was from the car to the wheelchair. Who would think about something like insurance card? During these 9 months, it was copied and pasted so many times in every place possible. They probably looked at my insurance card more than they checked the actual fetus. All in all, we forgot it. And here we come into the counter and they ask for it again. I don't have my insurance card. Admission stops. Nobody cares at which state I am, admission stops. My husband pulls out his wallet and luckily there was his insurance card. Same company, same policy, same ID, same last name. People looked at it, they said, okay, we'll take it. That's all what we need. So I delivered the baby, we came home. Months after the delivery, bills started pouring in from the hospital, from the doctor, and everything is so itemized for the room, for TV in the room, the food, medications, a BGYN visit, pediatrician visit. It's tens of thousands of dollars, and the insurance refuses to pay a penny at all, nothing. And you know, you call them, there's a machine. Doctors, hospitals, they don't know, they don't read this stuff, they just want their money. And when I see fine print, it paralyzes me. I stop understanding just the most primitive words. I begin even doubt my knowledge of the alphabet. So my husband, who can catch fine print on the fly, he looked and somewhere in the pile of papers, he dug out the line that said something like, reason for the denial. The actual formulation was, coverage denied because the procedure does not jibe with the patient's gender. It was really a moment of silence. We didn't get it. We just couldn't believe our eyes. Finally, we got someone on the phone, absolutely seriously, in a very important voice. The other side said that insurance does not cover babies delivered by men. It really leaves you speechless. Any attempt to bring some sense to the conversation was blocked on the spot. All in all, in the end, they covered everything, but it took months to explain and prove that I delivered the baby and not my husband.
Something tragic does. I can tell you as one of those doctors that sat there and put
Hi, you're on the air.
Hi, yeah, I'm calling because I made
Dump
the system
you.
with health
I just
insurance
dumped you,
because
sorry.
it
Can you say that
just
again?
doesn't work for me at this point. It's too expensive and it's not worth the stress of dealing with the system.
Sorry, so no swearing on the radio, but you said you have not been doing you're not insured.
No, I've not been insured since I left my job that gave me insurance. Because I don't want to be strapped to a job anymore that pays for insurance in it. It's not fun to do it that way.
So you're kind of hedging your bets and being like, I think I'll just deal with it if it comes.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very worried about needing emergency insurance and having to go to the ER or something, but I am definitely hedging my bets and hoping that doesn't happen and I don't have to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars.
It's scary. It's interesting. If that feels like a bold leap, were people supportive of this decision, or did you tell anyone?
Oh, most people freak out. Most people are not happy at all that I don't have insurance. It's kind of a constant thing where people are asking about it and trying to persuade me to get it.
Do you go to the doctor at all?
I just started going again, actually yesterday, to a free clinic in New York.
Did something
so I did
spur
see a doctor
you?
for the first time in 4 years.
Oh, wow. Did something happen that made you want to go see a doctor?
My current partner gave me strep, so I needed antibiotics.
A free clinic. How was that experience?
Pretty good. I mean, it's kind of a sliding scale. I don't know if you're familiar with Cal and Lord in New York. They serve primarily LGBT and stuff like that. But they're really fantastic and get a lot of funding through grants and stuff, I think. And so they are able to serve a lot of people in various income levels.
Is there any drawbacks to it, or is it mostly great?
I mean, I haven't had any drawbacks yet. I mean, they were really kind to me and really easy to work with and, say the right things that you need to hear.
How do you think, are you approaching healthcare differently now for yourself since you've been uninsured?
I mean, I kind of made the decision prior to getting off of health insurance that I was going to do that because all the doctors that I wanted to see were mostly holistic care practitioners or acupuncturists or traditional Chinese medicine. So none of them are covered by the insurance anyways. So I'm really looking at making life.
The call dropped. Feel free to give us a call back. The caller was just in the middle of talking about different kinds of holistic approaches to health.
Again, going back to that idea of what changes about how you deal with your own health, your own approach to your body when you don't feel like you have reliable access or affordable access.
It's these choices we make. It's really interesting hearing from listeners approaching kind of taking a step away from the system and really redefining how they're going to approach it for when I'm sure most people would disagree with that approach, but maybe not. I don't know.
Maybe not. I mean, the medical system isn't necessarily all right either. Maybe in some ways it'll lead you to healthier ways of being healthy too. I don't know. Give us a call at 201-209-9368. We're talking about all things health insurance related, which is also health care related in a lot of ways, very linked ideas. Navigating such a complicated labyrinth of a system that's very clearly intentionally obscure. How much time do you spend? I think a lot of callers have alluded to this too. Just spending incredible amounts of time having to fight every single bill. I don't know that I've ever received a medical bill that I didn't end up spending at least an hour on the phone trying sometimes successfully, sometimes unsuccessfully, to fight.
Mm-hmm. I remember a few years, this was probably close to a decade ago, I was living in New York and still under my mom's insurance because I was under 26 years old, and was working as a part-time teacher and was just constantly sick all the time, and also just working really hard, having many jobs, and just my body was under a lot of stress, not getting enough sleep and constantly getting sick. And I just had these swollen lymph nodes in my neck that were there for a few months, and I was I don't know what that means, but I'm just gonna roll with it. And everyone around me was you need to go figure that out. That could be bad. And finally, it was complicated because my family was in California and I was in New York, but I'm still under coverage somehow-ish. I don't really know. And trying to go to California, deal with I think my mom was even maybe on Medicaid at that time, so trying to navigate that system, and finally got a biopsy of it. Turned out it was, benign and fine, but I felt that stress and that process was also making them really inflamed. And after the surgery, they really they had to go down naturally, but it definitely felt the stress, and my mom's stress too, she was very stressed for me, and navigating the system was very difficult, and just us combined together, I felt it was all colliding, and all so much pressure in my body, and definitely what you're saying earlier, exacerbating the problem. It was very, very stressful, so yeah.
It's stressful, and then also when you're talking to the doctor, they always say, well, maybe caused by stress. Maybe the answer is to lower your stress.
Yeah. You're where do I begin, sir? Or ma'am? Or person?
Doctor?
Doctor?
In the Radio Ravioli comments board, there's been a lot of discussion, of course, of different healthcare flows, health insurance stories. And there's one in here that you just remind me of by a commenter. Lurch said, I didn't have health insurance in my 20s and couldn't afford to get a mole looked at. Turns out it was melanoma, and I let it grow. It came back as metastatic levels 10 years later, and I came so close to dying. I can't help but thinking that wouldn't have happened if I could have just had the mole removed.
Yeah, that's what people were warning me about.
Yeah.
Very scary. Thoughts go out to you, listener.
We're taking calls if you just want to vent, if you want to tell your frustrations, share numbers, share insight. I mean, if you know how to navigate the system, if you have insight into the New York State of Health, get covered NJ, healthcare.gov, whatever your local one may be, you can call us at 201-209-9368.
From an insurance perspective,
perspective, people who really need their health insurance to cover, like, say, additional medical treatments, threaten the company with medical losses, and investors want medical losses to be minimized in order to maximize profits. MD. Right to the left. Continuously.
The first time I got seriously hurt after me and Stuart were dating, and I put my arm through a pane of glass by accident, and there was a bit of a skin flap, but nothing like crazy. It wasn't like to the bone, but he freaked out and tried to call an ambulance, and I had to explain to his British brain that you absolutely cannot call an ambulance unless you were about to die. I can't remember if I didn't have health insurance then or if I was on I think I didn't have health insurance. And it was just, anyway, we took an Uber to the emergency room, and it was super expensive, but, saved a few $1,000s. The Uber driver was so suspicious. I gave him a corner. I put a pin down because I didn't want to say, take me to the emergency room. And I had my arm wrapped in a t-shirt under a coat, and full of paper towels. And he kept trying. The closer we got, he was like, "So wait, where do you want me to drop you off?" And I was like, "By those trucks over there." And he was like, "Do you mean the ambulances?" And yes, I did mean the ambulances.
Or EOB is a medical bill. But an EOB is not a bill. It's a statement designed to help you better understand your healthcare costs. Here's why you get that. Whenever you or someone on your Care First plan receives care, we get a claim requesting payment for the services provided. Claims are entered into our system and processed according to your benefits. After you pay the claim, we send you an EOB so you know exactly how your benefits were applied. For example, let's say you receive this EOB from Care First. Here's how to read it. First, your EOB includes a claim statement summary that summarizes claims for any care you received. Let's say your EOB is for a single claim for an in-network provider. The bar graph shows the total provider charges. This is the total cost of your care and what your provider typically charges for it. But Care First negotiates with providers to set reduced rates for services and allow the charge. The difference between these two charges is your Care First member discount, or the amount you save just by being a member and visiting an in-network provider. Next, the amount you may owe is not the amount you pay your provider. Remember, an EOB is not a bill. After Care First has paid its part, there may be an outstanding balance, which the provider will send you a bill for. So look for one in your mailbox or inbox. Another thing to look for is this member alert icon. It means that you may have claims that require action, which you will find in the claims details section on the next page. Finally, if you want to see how much you've spent toward your annual deductible and how much you have remaining, the deductible tracker makes it easy. You should also note that family can apply to a single person or group. If you're looking for itemized details for each claim, you'll find that after the claim statement summary. So, now that we've explained the different parts of an EOB, you'll be able to use them as a resource to help you understand your cost and see the value of your Care First plan. If you have any questions or want to learn more, visit carefirst.com/EOB. Care First. It's not just a
Hi, you're on the air. Hi, you're on the air.
Hi. So recently, I
tried to add my daughter to the health insurance. And I am the one at work that handles all the health insurance for adding anyone. So I'll read you some emails of how this went. Good morning, Jack. Can you please give me the cost to add a child to the health insurance and what information do you need aside from her social security card? Jack says, I need the age of the child. Was he or she just born? If not, did you lose coverage elsewhere? Other than those events, one cannot add additional insured until the plan's open enrollment at the end of March, prior to plan's April 1 renewal date. She is 15 and she was living abroad going to school and no longer will be going forward as of this week. My wife's coverage was recently canceled and she has COBRA as she was laid off, which has been a big problem. I've inquired if the situation in the qualifying event will let you know. What state was your daughter in? Did she lose health insurance that she had? What is the exact termination date? My wife's coverage through Cigna ended on November 30th, and the COBRA coverage effective 12/1. Sophia was living abroad in Panama, going to school, living with her aunt. She had just graduated at the end of December, and now she's staying here permanently. She was on the plan 5 years ago. And then before that, she was on my wife's plan. And then Jack says, your wife would have to go to your employer to retroactively terminate her COBRA 12/1. Typically, her daughter would have to prove coverage terminated. Guessing such official correspondence would not be easy to obtain, if at all. Bill inquire further. May not have an answer till Monday. We're unable to cancel the COBRA effective 12/1 as my wife just had surgery on 12/23 and is being covered under COBRA. I would be afraid that that would affect us negatively. The COBRA gave us hell, although it was active 12/1, we had many complications. The surgery was originally scheduled for 12/5, but when we went to the hospital, they would not perform the surgery. And we had to wait until the following week to reschedule. And the following week came, and we still could not reschedule. We were not able to do the surgery until the 23rd of December. And I haven't heard anything back from Jack since.
Thank you for your call.
Very frustrating.
Very.
I've been calling, sending follow-up emails, and nothing. Essentially, they want me to terminate an insurance plan which just paid for a surgery that didn't want to pay for a surgery. Makes no sense whatsoever.
Seems like it rarely does sometimes in this landscape, this current health insurance landscape. Good luck. Thank you so much.
I can barely hear you.
Good luck. Have a good night.
It's endless, dehumanizing, frustrating.
It can be. It's WFMU East Orange, WMFU Mount Hope in New York City and Rockland County, 91.9 FM and online at WFMU.org. We're talking about your health insurance, health care, how we think about health and our well-being, how these systems affect our everyday. Give us a call, 201-209-9368.
Members like you enjoy the convenience of texting with us on the go. Just say text or press 1 to start texting instead of remaining on the phone. Your call may be monitored or recorded for quality assurance. Are you currently a member?
Yes.
If you are calling to update your name, address, or dependents, press 1. You'll have all of your plan info in one and always at your fingertips with our app, Sydney. It's easy to get answers to your questions, find a doctor, order an ID card, and you can chat with a representative 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, including holidays. Visit the App Store or Google Play today to download Sydney and get the most from your health plan and your health. In a few words, please tell me what you are calling about. You can say things like payments and billing, claim status, or benefits information. Okay, go ahead in your own words.
Costs for ambulatory surgery. Yes. May 7th, 1989.
Which type of benefit are you calling about?
Medical.
On day 48, my dad was readmitted another round of intensive chemo because we were waiting for transplant approval. We were emotionally exhausted, frustrated, and devastated that we had to continue focusing our time and energy on holding this insurance company accountable for
Olivia,
spending
Adrienne.
quality time with my father.
With regards to healthcare, in the UK we're subject to the National Health Service, which is a very different system to the American model. But one of the things that worries me is that we've seen politicians in the UK who look to the American system as something that we should be adapting to, or we should be changing over to. Some people feel that our NHS is an outmoded sort of model that isn't fit for purpose in the 21st century. And it does, I would say, need some degree of modernisation and perhaps further investment. It's not a perfect system by any means, but my worry is, as someone on low income, if we switched to an American healthcare system, there's no way I would be able to afford the premiums that would, potentially, be asked of me. I'm on a low wage. I'm a carer for someone else with learning difficulties, and as a consequence, my income isn't great, and that's, an added expense is something that would probably break me. So the NHS as it stands is something that I'm incredibly grateful for, because it provides me with healthcare at source for a pretty nominal for a nominal fee. But it's something that I feel could potentially be at risk.
Interesting hearing those international perspectives. We had a couple people on the comments board, Laura Panic in Australia, talking about how healthcare there isn't totally free, but often and mostly, and how a lot of medication is subsidized. And another person on the comments board wondering if they should travel to take a trip to a foreign country to try to get some healthcare there. We have someone on the line. Hi, you're on the air.
Hey, Olivia. Hey, Adriene.
Hey, what's up?
What's going on? I have a doozy of a story. If I was a funnier guy, I could probably stretch it out into like a one-man show. But I'll tell you guys the abbreviated version, or as abbreviated as I can get while staying on topic. I was lucky. I grew up with insurance. My father worked in retail, and I remember it being a pretty constant theme around my house growing up of how much money we had to pay for insurance to insure 3 kids and X, Y, and Z, and et cetera. So I was always very conscious of that. And so when I turned 26, I remember being very, very, very stressed to not be covered. And I didn't know what I was going to do and what was going to happen. And at the time, I had a couple friends who'd had medical issues who didn't have insurance. And so I was a bit of a late bloomer. And at the time, I was going back to school to finally get my bachelor's degree. So I was getting insurance through my school. And this was 2013, 14, whatever it was. And so that was about when the final parts of Obamacare kicked in. And if you talk about, insurance reform or changing the system or whatever, there's always unintended consequences. And Obamacare overall was a very good program. But the issue was when Obamacare happened and they opened up all these low-cost insurance programs to people, to low-income people, which students are, my school decided to get rid of their insurance offering. And so that was, that was over that summer. I got the notice in the mail. And so I applied to New Jersey Medicaid at the time, I was making very little money. I was actually working as a tour guide in New York City. And New Jersey, being New Jersey, botched out their Medicare rollout. And so I got another letter in the mail saying, X, Y, and Z, you're being denied, but you can reapply again in November. And I thought, okay, what could go wrong? I'm gonna raw dog it from this summer until re-enrollment opens in the fall. And so it was about a week before. It was because it was during the World Series. It was a week before Halloween. I was leading a tour group full entirely of German people through a 6-hour tour through New York City on bicycle. It was me and another German tour guide. And we were riding, and it was the beginning of the day, and I started to feel a tightness in my chest. And I thought I was having, anxiety, or maybe I was hungover or whatever. And then about half an hour later, we got deeper into Midtown, and it felt like I had pulled a muscle. And then probably 20 minutes after that, it felt like I had broken a rib. And so I was immediately freaking out. I was like, what am I going to do? I have no insurance. I'm just going to tough this out. I'm just going to get them to the end point. I'm going to find my boss. I'm going to tell him I'm going home. I'm going to go lie down. Everything's going to be fine. I just don't want to go to the hospital. 20 minutes after that, it hurt so bad I had convinced myself I was having a heart attack. And I was riding, we were in Gramercy Park at this point, and so I pulled over and I talked to Gunther, who was the German guide who was with us at the time. He told my boss later that my lips were turning blue. And I told him that I was having a medical issue and he had to get these people to Brooklyn, and I was going to go to the hospital. I was seeing signs for Mount Sinai, Beth Israel. And so I waved him off, and I waved goodbye to all, these clueless German tourists, convinced I was about to go drop dead. And I rolled right into the emergency room in Beth Israel. And I said, hello, I think I'm having a heart attack. And they said, okay, fill out this paperwork. And I sat down and I called my parents. I called my ex-girlfriend, my recent ex-girlfriend at the time, just kind of let everyone know, knowing that I was going to die. And they got me in to the nurse's station and laid me down after a bit. And I immediately felt better. And I got so upset that I felt better from lying down, because I was like, I knew it was nothing. I knew it wasn't a big deal. All I had to do was just lie down and take a break. Now I'm going to have to pay $3,000 for an emergency room visit. I was kicking myself. I was so pissed. And then the nurse came in, and she said, okay, hello, sir. How are you doing? She goes, have you ever popped a lung before? And I said, no. And she said, well, you did. You did now. And you look like the type. She, apparently it's skinny white men in their late 20s who used to smoke. And that nailed me to a T at that point. And so I ended up spending a week in Mount Sinai, Beth Israel. And they gave me a chest tube. They did a whole thing. They were giving me Percocets, which was very nice. And basically every time the Percocet wore off, I would have a panic attack and ask everyone who would come near me that I need to talk to someone in finance. I don't have insurance. And so they're like, okay, well, that's fine, da-da-da, and they take another Percocet. The Mets lost the World Series. I remember that very clearly, and not much else. And then so finally, the third day I was in there, a woman from finance came in, very no-nonsense type. She comes in, and she goes, okay, sir, she goes, we're going to check your finances now. And she picks up the phone, she calls the desk, and she does something, she hangs up. She goes, okay, sir. So she goes, as of today, you owe us $49,000. And, we're gonna have to figure something out here. And so I was immediately pressing the button for more Percocet while I was talking to her. And she starts asking me questions. She said, well, where do you work? And I said, well, yeah, I work. I'm a seasonal employee. I just walked off the job. It's October. I'm not going back. I'm functionally unemployed as of today. She said, okay, that's good. She goes, where do you live? And I said, I live in Jersey City. And she goes, okay, do you have an address in New York City or in New York, anywhere in New York, where you can get mail, you can receive mail? And I said, no, I live in Jersey City. And she said, stop telling me that you live in Jersey City and give me an address in New York where you can get mail. This, I learned later, was very par for the course. Beth Israel is like a community hospital, and they do a lot of work with people who need financial aid. So this was like them cooking the books. I think it's probably not unrelated that it's getting closed, which is a huge loss for the East Village. But in any case, she said, okay, look, we're going to get you on New York State Medicaid. We'll figure this all out. And then once that started happening, the doctor started coming to see me, this real tough guy, thoracic surgeon, real big rock star. He had the whole coterie of scrubs, interns with him who were worshiping the ground that he walked on. And he came in and he gave me the whole rundown. He's like, I'm going to do this to you. I'm going to do this surgery. I'm going to attach your lung to your chest wall. You're going to only have a 4% recurrence rate if this ever happens again in your life. Da-da-da. I was like, okay, cool, great. That sounds great. Thanks, doc. And then so one of his orderlies or whatever you call them, one of his scrubs guys after was cleaning me up, buttoning me up after I was examined on the table. And I asked him, I was like, hey man, he kept saying, because I'm getting insurance, I'm going to get this surgery. What if I wasn't going to get insurance? What would happen? And the guy said to me, he goes, honestly, if we didn't think we were going to get you on New York Medicaid, we would bundle you up, put you in an Uber, and send you to New Jersey. So, they did the surgery. I ended up, like I said, spending a week there. And at the end of it, coming out of it, I had a regular guy who would come in and give me chest x-rays. Cool guy. We ended up hitting it off. And so on my last day, he came in to give me my discharge papers. And I think he saw the look on my face. I was still on, I was very on opiates at this point still, but I was bracing myself for this big, terrible document. Because I still have it with me. I actually was digging through my stuff before to try to pull it out, and I couldn't find it. But I know I have it somewhere. Big, thick envelope, big brown envelope with a stack of documents in it. And I pulled it out, and The documents have, it's every cliche, everything you've ever heard about medical billing. You know, there's like, you know, aspirin is $40. So, you know, like all of these, everything was itemized, all of my time, everything that happened, da-da-da-da-da. So there are 4 or 5 pages of that. You get to the end, final tally, it's something around $109,000 or $110,000, 6 figures. And then there's a bit of math that goes on, and then it's New York State Medicaid, copay, da-da-da, X, Y, and Z. The final bill was like $38, which I don't think I ever paid. And that's why New York, and someone else said it earlier tonight, I am personally convinced that New York State Medicaid is probably the best insurance you can get in the United States. No, you know, hands down.
So is that the solution? Is that what we should be trying to do? Get on New York Medicaid? Oh, that's such a crazy story.
My favorite
happy ending.
Final point of that was the guy who came in and gave me my final documents. He gave me the chest X-ray, and he saw me flipping through it, and he saw me react to what the final bill was. He gave me a fist bump, and he went, "Thanks, Obama."
All right, my man, what's up? Thank you so much for your call. That is a wild story. The layers, the ways that I relate to it, of feeling like kicking yourself, like I shouldn't have done this. I'm wasting my time. I'm wasting my money. Luckily, he has a good ending for it, but it's easy to spiral in your head and wonder how you're going to pay for all of this. It's FMU. We're talking about health insurance. Whatever that means for you, however it is impacting your life, wherever you are in the States. Maybe you are navigating a different system around the world. We're curious to hear about it. Feel free to give us a call. We're here till midnight, 201-209-9368.
No wonder earlier callers being excited about 4-digit bills.
Yeah, close to $50K for a week in the hospital. A lot.
But could be worse.
Could be worse. The constant refrain. Be grateful.
I mean, that is what it does to you. I'm always grateful when I have anything under $1,000. I'm kind of grateful. You know.
I think I'm still too naive for that, maybe, of like, sticker, like any cost. I'm like, what? No, but not me. How could it be me? I can't be affected by this. Mom, help. They didn't say this would happen.
They never do. That's the thing. They never do. It's so obscure. I heard when I had the like a little surgery on my hand, I had the cyst that grew right in between my thumb and my pointer finger. It was incredibly painful. And when I went to have it removed, I had this terrible insurance. I knew I was going to end up paying the whole thing because I wasn't going to hit my deductible with it. And I called the hospital to try to figure out how much it was going to cost, and they wouldn't tell me because they have different numbers, you know, that they bill the insurance versus what they bill you. And I spent so much time with them, with the insurance company. No one would give me a ballpark of how much I was going to be paying. In the end, no one would even ballpark it for me.
Are they avoiding like a lawsuit or something like that?
I think it's because the hospital wants to charge as much as they can possibly charge, so they don't, you know, I don't know. You know, and then when you ever look at your EOB, your explanation of benefits, and it comes in the mail, and it's always it's so many lines, right? It's like how much the thing cost, how much did the hospital charge, how much is the insurance willing to pay. How much did the hospital agree for them to pay? How much did they agree to pay? There's so many lines before it gets to what was paid and then what you owe.
Yeah, it's kind of like terms and conditions, right? Where your eyes just kind of glaze over. You're not like, am I supposed to be reading this? I don't. Is this relevant to me or not?
I just remember being on the phone with whoever, the billing person at the hospital, and just being like, okay, you can't tell me a number. Is it going to be over $1,000? And she wouldn't say anything. I kept really trying to, like, you know, am I hot or cold? 500?
And you didn't get anywhere with that?
I didn't get anywhere with it, no.
How much did it end up costing?
Well, that was the same one I mentioned earlier where the anesthesiologist was $800 at some point, and I think that, I don't remember what all, I mean, because also all the bills come differently, right? You get one bill from the hospital, you get a different bill from the doctor themselves, you get a different bill from the anesthesiologist, you get a different bill for like the rental of the operating room, you know. You get like 4 or 5 bills for these things. So, yeah. But I didn't hit my deductible, and my deductible was, I think it was $6,000 that year.
I actually don't know what my deductible is. I guess I could pull out my card.
But agree with all the callers. New York State of Health, great. Medicaid, New York State of Health Medicaid, excellent. Excellent coverage, best coverage I've ever had, best doctors I've ever seen.
I was trying to pull out my card and see if I could find my deductible. Like $5,000. If it out-of-pocket max is close to 15.
15.
Yeah. Or maybe it's close to 8. It's confusing because it's individual and family, but I guess I'm an individual. So yeah, it's closer to 8,000.
What are your, do you have a co-insurance or co-pays?
Yeah. Which one? There's PCP, is that what I'm looking for? Or SPC?
I don't even know what these are.
There's a number
HMO,
that says
PPO.
It says like $25, and then another one that says $75, and then another one. Yeah, so maybe somewhere between there.
Those are your co-pays, maybe?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, because sometimes instead of a co-pay, it'll be like a co-insurance. So it's like you hit your deductible, but then you're still paying a percentage of the cost. So it's like you hit your deductible. Before you hit your deductible, you're paying 100%, and then after you hit your deductible, you're paying, 70% or something.
Still, I don't quite understand the full thing. Maybe I'm not supposed to.
You're not supposed to. Nobody's. Just leave it alone. You're not supposed to. We've been talking about health insurance all night. We're here until midnight. If you have any odysseys of navigating the system, the healthcare, the health insurance, how it's affected the way that you deal with your own health. Do you go to the doctor? When was the last time you went to the doctor? I've been to the dentist. I go to the dentist like once every 10 years, and it's a problem.
I gotta say, from that last caller who had someone in the system kind of nudging him to say the right answer, it is cool to have those moments and those people kind of looking out for you. I'm curious if anyone has other stories like that. I'm always kind of like stubbornly or like just violently not interpreting when somebody's giving me a code like that, where I'm like, no, but that's not the truth. But and then I start to get frustrated. But I don't live here. But that's not what's happening. And then finally it's like, oh, okay. You're giving me the signal.
You're trying to help me.
It's helpful to have people like that in the system.
But it also feels like when you're in that system that no one's going to help you. I mean, doctors spend 2 minutes with you. They don't look at your chart. They don't actually, spend the time. You know, nurses come in and out, and then they get mad at you. And then people at the front desk and everyone's overwhelmed. So the idea that someone would be giving you a nudge to help seems unfathomable.
Well, you have to navigate so many people that it's just very tricky. We're getting a call right now. Hi, you're on the air.
Hi. Yeah, I've had a few experiences where I didn't have insurance, and it was at times when I truly was living virtually paycheck to paycheck as a temp, and then I had like some health issues that I absolutely had to take care of that are, I don't know if I want to go into them, but I had to kind of wait until the weekend or whatever, and then I went to the nearby public hospital, and it was in a big city. And, you know, I had to wait a really long time, but I got service, and then I got a bill, but I ended up not really having to pay it because this hospital was notorious for not really collecting. Then a few years later, they became more, they tried to update and get more tight about getting paid. But still, I had to go back to them for one other thing. They sent me a bill, and I never paid it, and I got the health care I needed, but it was I had to wait for many hours in the emergency room.
Yeah, that's another thing as well. Thank you so much for your call.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, I hear what that listener was saying.
The inconsistency, the not knowing.
And the little scamming that can be had is interesting.
Little scamming. But you're never really the one doing the scamming.
Yeah, that's true.
They'll get you if they want to get you. They'll come after you.
That's true. Someone on the comments board was wondering, is there some kind of health insurance advisor that one could hire, such as an accountant for taxes? Is there an equivalent in the health insurance landscape?
If you know of one, give us a call. 201-209-9368. I've had a lot of luck with the people that you can call when you're dealing with the marketplace. When you just kind of are confused and you call and you say, please help me. I mean, they can't help you find a good plan, but they'll help you navigate at least the getting the insurance part.
That's good. That's a good tip.
Another commenter also popped in to define a bunch of the terms. I don't know if these are right. I'm not fact-checking them, but we've got premium, how much you pay for insurance. Deductible, how much you pay out of pocket. Co-insurance, how much you pay after you hit your deductible, usually expressed as a percentage. Out-of-pocket maximum, once you're in copay territory, that's what they say, there is usually a maximum amount that you are on the hook to pay, after which insurance pays 100% of the cost. Copay is a one-time fee for routine services. I don't know if that's helpful. None of it's really helpful, because at the end of the day, I'm not sure that there are good plans. I think at the end of the day, there's like not a non-scammy health insurance plan. I kind of don't think it exists. But I appreciate the optimism that people seem to have.
One is I call the trial list, in which they will come here and they'll tell you in favor of working with you as good faith partners and with the president. And they'll say the same thing that they said in 1893 and before in favor of getting rid of the pre-existing condition clauses and in favor of avoiding the cherry picking that goes on. And
So they say one thing and do another.
yeah, exactly.
Do they do that consistently?
They do consistently. They say one thing.
Hi, thank you so much for reading.
Sure.
I guess I already followed through your policy, and I just want to ask you, do you have the CPT code?
The, which code?
For your surgery.
It says to call and ask about the cost for a freestanding ambulatory surgical facility.
The funding came largely from health insurance companies, and the sole purpose was to kill the patient's Bill of Rights.
When you say front groups, you mean these are groups that mobilize
Information for me to check what is the estimated amount for this.
Public opinion.
That's right.
I mean, I can tell you what the surgery is. I don't have a code for it, though.
And they work also with the media and with members of Capitol Hill. But
Do you
the media,
submit the authorization for this?
Have connections.
Do I, sorry?
And reporters will feed
Alright, no worries.
messages to them.
So regarding on that one, do you
and there are a lot of reporters and
provider
producers
contact
and
numbers that I
finance
can ask
who are
for
very
the
sympathetic to
information?
them.
Yes, the person doing the surgery?
Some more questions, but my time has expired.
Yes, I do.
Want to
Can I have it please so that I can call them? Because I need to ask for some information.
Sure. The main doctor is, it's
And Mr. Jordan, you may proceed for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr.
and the number is,
To the committee and to our witnesses.
I'm sorry, what is the name again?
Another committee going on.
the name is I Consult,
Always in awe of how you
I consult.
be in two committees at once.
I like EYE,
This important hearing and for the witnesses.
and then
And-
consultants
And to Miss
with an S.
Mr. Gendernalik and Miss Ackley, I mean, your stories, I think every single American would agree what you went through is wrong. You pay your premiums, you're honest when you sign up for your contract. You should
Hi, you're on the air.
harassment and things.
Hi, this is Emily in Jersey City.
Hey, what's up? Do you have a story about health insurance?
Yeah, so beyond my own sort of normal, healthcare related stuff, I have a daughter who has some disabilities, and that's a whole bunch of other insanity. One thing probably a lot of listeners don't realize, or, maybe some have had some experience with, is like, there's this huge disparity between, like, most of the practitioners that, like, say, a speech pathologist or an occupational therapist or things that you would need for your kid, they don't take insurance. Like, especially, like, the practitioners who are, like, most up to date on, best practices, because the field has changed so much in recent years. So, there are, like, good ones who don't take insurance, and if you're lucky, you have out-of-network benefits and can get reimbursed for it. Or if not, you have to go to the practitioners that do take insurance, some of whom have wait lists. I've heard of a wait list as long as 2 years to get a neuropsych evaluation for a child.
Oh, wow.
And
That seems like a long time.
So, yeah, it's crazy. So, like, there's all of these parents who are, like, trying to get help for their kids who, some of whom have, like, pretty serious medical issues, and, just trying, like, lost in this system where it's like, so many of the people, because there's so much demand, and some of the the types of medicine are kind of niche for kids like these, that there's so few and there's so much demand for it, and it's hard to get into people, and it's crazy. It's a huge disparity between families and what kinds of care some kids get and others don't get.
Thank you so much for sharing. I think that's been underrepresented, and it's a good point to bring into the conversation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks so much for doing this show. This is great.
Yeah, have a great night.
Something we haven't talked about much either is also just disability in general, which is another nightmare when you're trying to navigate.
Yeah, disabilities, chronic pains,
Things that make it even harder to navigate paperwork.
And also really change your priorities and your allowances and like limit your options in terms of what you actually need, you know.
And I do think people forget sometimes, if you're alive long enough, you will at some point be disabled for some amount of time. At some point you will have to deal with this. It's a scary thought.
Yeah. To say the least.
Just to move into like a lighter note of the show.
Yeah, completely. No, it's a good point though. It affects us all. It's not just a certain group of people. Of course, some people are burdened with or shoulder more of this and are faced with the realities of it in a different way than the rest of us, but it really can affect us all, and it's something that we all might have to struggle with in our lives, even if you don't think you will at some point. Sometimes things sneak up on you and randomly affect you.
Lung ruptures? What happened to that one caller?
Collapsed lung.
26-year-old lung collapses? Yeah. You never know. On the topic of cost, I did just get a message from my dad, who had his finger. He was using a drill and it sort of spun and it knocked his finger out. He has something called like a boutonniere's deformity. I don't know what exactly it is, but basically his finger sort of snapped down and he couldn't get it to stay open. And he went to the doctor and they gave him this little plastic thing. It's a tiny little plastic thing that just covers at your knuckle to keep the finger straight to sort of fix the problem. And it was $45, just this little plastic thing. And he looked up online to buy another one for himself, and he found a pack of 20 for $5. Exact same thing.
Say again the price difference?
The doctor's office charged $45 for this little plastic thing. But he found like a 5-pack. Or I'm sorry, he found like a 5-pack. For $5? Is that what the number I just said?
That's so wild.
It's wild.
I mean, this is different in a way, but I feel like I encounter stuff like that at the vet where they want to offer me something that's so much more expensive than I could find on my own without also paying for a vet visitation fee and all this stuff. Dog insurance and dog health care is sometimes also as frustrating and expensive as human insurance. It is. I've learned you can't trust much of it unless something is like in need of surgery.
It's scams all the way down.
Scams all the way down.
It's just scam on top of scam on top of scam. We're live for a few more minutes. Give us a call. Read us your benefits plan. Read us your EOB. A caller reading emails. Vent. Tell us your stories. Share them with us. We have them too. 201-209-9368. We're on the air till midnight. If you're falling asleep to the show, I'm so sorry about the dreams you're about to have.
I also want to do a plug for next month's show, which is
a
about
much kinder topic.
Much kinder, much gentler. It's about trees. And we always take calls during the show, but we also can collect voice memos or stories before the show actually happens in the in-between time. So just send us an email, tourism@wfmu.org. Record something on your iPhone. Doesn't have to be anything crazy.
Stories of trees, thoughts about trees, reflections on trees. falling out of a tree, having to go to the doctor.
Connecting.
I just got another message from a friend about a $2,000 lens put in their eye during an emergency situation.
Wow. Wow, wow, wow.
And I lived in New York for about a year and a half at one point when I was on internship during my PhD. So I was like a PhD student on internship and also doing some research and living in New York. I was uninsured, so I had like a fellowship that covered my salary, but I didn't have health insurance. Like I would have had to pay for it privately, and it was just so expensive. So I just like opted out of not doing it. And I still had my health care like in Canada. So I was like, oh, you know, if something really bad happens to me, I'm just like a 6-hour drive from home. So I just never got the insurance like in the US. It felt like a risk. I knew it was a risk. And I was like, well, you know, like the odds of something like really crazy like that happening are low, but they're still there. But mostly what was tough was like when I would be sick, like if I got like strep throat or if I got like a UTI. So like because I'm someone who like those are like frequent things for me. Like I wouldn't be able to get antibiotics, and I would get like really like upset and just like cry a bunch. And but actually the worst thing that had happened was I had like a cyst, and it was really painful, and I ended up just like bursting it myself in the shower one day, and I was like bleeding everywhere, and I cried a bunch. It was just like stuff like that. It was just like whenever I'd be like sick, I just didn't have like the option to like for like small things, like, you know, like I was saying like strep or UTI or, you know, this time the cyst. I just couldn't. I didn't have like, or if I didn't have the option of really seeking care unless I would like pay out of pocket. I was on like medication at the time, like SSRIs, like mental health and like birth control, but I would just drive. It would be annoying because it was like every 4 months, like my pharmacist like was like okay with it. I was like, oh, like I'm going to study in the States for a bit, and what's the longest I can like take out prescriptions? And I already had like a good rapport with him. He'd be like, okay, well I can give you at most 4 months at a time, but then I would have to like drive back to Montreal every 4 months to like get my medication.
Physician extenders such as physician assistants. Dr. Stern has served as a medical faculty of the Maryland chapter of the American Academy of Pediatrics, and his heartfelt feeling that I worked with great to tell us to join the doctor.
I reached out to the Montana Insurance Commissioner's office to specifically the reconciliation and legal compliance. We enlisted the help of countless friends and family to hold the insurance company accountable on my father's behalf. And I was very content with an attorney who had experience litigating transplant denial cases.
Oh, this did not end on like a light note. Good news. What's good news about health insurance in the current iteration?
Waiting for transplant.
Nope.
We were emotionally exhausted, frustrated, and devastated that we had to continue focusing our time and energy.
My apologies. I can't give you. But what's great about our healthcare system? What's great about health insurance in the U.S. of A? The rigmarole that we have to endure through the red tape of callousness within the system, that it's like you don't blame the person on the phone that you're calling to get your claim approved that you paid for, because you paid for the insurance. But someone is incentivized on the phone to be like, nope. That's where we're at. But I can blame them a little bit. I can blame them a little bit for being the cog in the machine that is meant to put like the boot on the neck of like the poor proletariat who has to pay into a corporation just for them to say no. And then somehow you end up with a dental assistant telling you it's your money.
Changed the course of my father's treatment and affected his chance for a successful life-saving transplant. Thank you.
Thank you for the testimony. Chair recognizes Dr. Stern.
Thank you, Chairman Kucinich, members of the committee, for this opportunity to appear before you today. I'm here on behalf of patients and families that I take care of, the American Academy of Pediatrics in Maryland chapter, and the National Physician Alliance. As already been noted, I've been in practice in primary care pediatrics for approximately 30 years in Maryland.
Exceptional patient care isn't just critical in the ER. It's important to any healthcare organization.
What are you here for? I'm supposed to schedule a colonoscopy? Yes. Colonoscopy. And do you have your insurance card? Yes. You better have a seat. This will probably take a while.
There now, fairly standard encounter, wouldn't you say? Maybe, but it shouldn't be. See how that last interaction might have gone.
Hi, I'm Beverly. Admissions clerk. Can I help you? Yes, I'm Gladys Morgan, and I was referred to you by my family physician. I'm supposed to see a Dr. Marshall. Very nice to meet you. Would you like to have a seat?
CRM's General Hospitable is filled with customer service techniques your staff can put to use immediately.
I mean, he jabbed me 3 times before he managed to find the patient. Hey, look at this. That's not supposed to happen. I think he let the blood leak under the skin.
Even though this technician had nothing to do with the patient's complaint, he's missed an opportunity for something called service recovery. What is service recovery? Well, it's the art of converting a dissatisfied patient into a happy, loyal one. There are 3 simple steps to a good service recovery.
Jabbed me 3 times before he managed to find the vein. I mean, it doesn't hurt, but it sure look bad, doesn't it?
It starts by listening to the patient, really giving them your attention and letting them complain.
Sorry that happened.
Dissatisfied patients often share their negative healthcare stories with others. Luckily, so do the satisfied ones. They actually become ambassadors for your healthcare organization to other potential customers.
With this entertaining video, your team will learn how to turn every patient interaction into an exclusive, top-quality care and outstanding customer service.
In our community, the amount of drivers who had coverage but did not have care and died in this very city as a result of lack of care because providers weren't available. The last thing is, at the current rate, we know the liability that we're generating in the healthcare area are being left at the feet of our children. Let us make sure as we move forward that the assets are in our hands. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Doctor. I want to acknowledge what you said about mentally demonstrated driving. Mr. Cummings and I have had an ongoing conversation about that young man's death. And I think that before the end of the day, we'll get a chance to recount what happened with him in the system. Dr. Pino, you may proceed.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee and the staff, I appreciate the opportunity to be here. I am a former company doctor who made this concept of equipment death decisions Mr. Cummings referred to. In fact, one of my prior appearances here was in 1996
a total of $1,700 for health care,
cause harm and death to patients. And the fact that little has happened is evidence by the fact that
59
clip
years.
of that hearing has resurfaced.
2 to 1, he was born at home.
It's very timely.
Cost to parents, $50. Cost of medical equipment, $87.50, including the black bag. In his lifetime, a total of $1,700 for health care, mostly out of his own pocket. There was a new idea then, insurance to help pay hospital bills. But practically nobody had it. Only a generation ago. How much has changed within living memory?
You're listening to WFMU. It's Radio Ravioli. It's a special edition of the show, the second Wednesday of every month. We open the lines up. I'm here with Adriene, and we, take calls, have different themes each month. This month, it's about health insurance. We've been hearing all kinds of conversations and stories and thoughts on the current system here in the U.S. And next month, we're going to switch it up and go to trees. Hearing about stories of trees, thoughts that they inspire.
Memories of trees.
Specific memories of trees.
Times that trees have led you to have to call your health insurance company.
Branch fell. The tree swing broke.
You fell out of a tree. You fell into a tree.
Definitely want to hear about tree houses.
Yeah. Did you have a tree house or friends with a tree house growing up?
Off the top of my head right now, I'm trying to think if it's something that actually happened or something I imagined that happened. Some, like a film, a memory from a movie is becoming my life.
Yeah, I think all treehouse memories are probably fake.
Yeah.
Right. Have you ever fallen out of a tree?
Not that I remember. It's been a while. I'll have to dig my own memories over this next month and really try to get back to, like, I feel like I was spending the most time with trees as a kid. Like, I have them, like, that's when I was like swinging from trees kind of thing. My dad we had a big tree on our front lawn, and he used to hug the tree every day.
Every day?
Or like regularly. Maybe I could get him to kind of talk about his tree hugging process.
Wow.
Practice.
Did the tree hug back?
You know, I never really talked to him about it. This was right after, speaking of healthcare, this was right after my dad had leukemia. He was in the hospital for close to a year. He had an 80% chance of dying, and was a waiter at the time. So he was applying for a bunch of grants as well, or like, you know, special services as a single parent and as a dad, and as a person not making much money, so that he would to cover some of the costs of these things. But that was a big moment in his life and changed. I think he was processing a lot at that time, and maybe hugging trees was part of it, but I'll have to ask him for specifics. I know he was going through a spiritual phase in that time of his life.
Yeah, I mean, any excuse to connect, I think, is a nice one to take.
Yeah.
Tonight, though, not trees. We've been talking about health insurance. We're winding down, but a lot of different calls. No good ones. Not a lot of praise. But a couple people had decent insurances.
Yeah, and someone sent me a message offering a suggestion. They said the best I can suggest is to find a job in the 1199 or 1199 healthcare union. Best insurance ever. No co-pays, no deductible, no premiums. Most everyone takes it. I've never paid for anything healthcare related out of pocket, and they've had 2 major surgeries. They're basically trapped in healthcare jobs because of the amazing benefits, but nothing can compare to the value their family receives from this. Is it 1199 or 1199 insurance?
I don't know.
Thanks for offering that insight and sending it in.
Yeah, it still really calls to how sad it is that you have to be stuck in a job, potentially a horrible job, a toxic job, a difficult job, a job you hate, just for the healthcare. It's hard. But it's great some people do at least get some healthcare out of it.
Yeah. And changing your relationship to your job. Maybe you can kind of disconnect in some way, disassociate in some way, shut things down.
Yeah, that's the dream.
Yeah.
Is that what we're all striving for? Just
to be on autopilot for 8 hours a day.
If only I could have a job that was made me work overtime and really forced me to disassociate. But the healthcare.
Speaking of, the new season of Severance coming up soon. Could be the dream.
This show, if you're just tuning in now and you've missed the show, we're also now a podcast. Not all of Radio Ravioli, just this Ravioli Tourism call-in extravaganza.
Yes.
Second Wednesday of every month. I join you.
Yeah, this is our 4th show. We've done topics on near-death experiences and car crashes and water and time, different perceptions of time, and this current one about health insurance. So we have a podcast going where you can easily hear that anywhere you listen to podcasts. Or check out the FMU archives on WFMU.org. That's also very accessible and easy to use, either one.
More accessible than health insurance. More accessible than healthcare.
Wow.
This show.
That's a good logo.
Incredible. It's a low bar, but we've reached it.
Thank you so much to everyone who's called in. Thank you, Adrienne, for pulling all these clips, all the clips that you heard during the show, and different sound mixing has been done by Adrienne. I've been playing music as well. All the musical elements and beds from this show are made by either us or friends of ours, so that's really special. Thanks to Chad and Jasmine and Bailey and Matt Warwick and Ted for all contributing sounds just for this show.
It's great. It sounds so good.
Such great music, such great clips, such great calls, honestly. It's really special doing this show and connecting and having people call in real time. It's cool and it feels rare.
Yeah. Well, I hope to hear from you next month for trees.
It's WFMU East Orange, WMFU Mount Hope in New York City and Rockland County, 91.9 FM and online WFMU.org.
According to a recent story in the Wall Street Journal, the 7 largest for-profit health insurance companies have seen a decline of 5 million members in their fully insured books of business just since 2007. I would ask the executives why this is happening and if they expect this trend to continue, and I would ask them what kinds of businesses are fully insured these days. Again, if they're honest, they will tell you that they are primarily small to mid-sized customers that are not large enough to self-insure. Members with so many that does not bode well for the future of this country or our economy, as most of the job growth in the U.S. is occurring in small to mid-sized businesses. I would ask the executives what kind of health benefit plans they're marketing now to small businesses and to businesses with a high rate of turnover among employees. If they're honest, they will tell you they're marketing limited benefit or high deductible plans for these businesses. I would ask Adriene and Olivia in particular why they are sponsoring the first annual voluntary benefits and limited medical plans in Los Angeles next year. And I would ask them what voluntary really means. If they're honest, they'll tell you that workers are more voluntary benefit plans.
In the United States of America, the city of Chicago, 1931 AD. The questions were the same, but the answers were different. Statistics said lifespan 59 years. 2 to 1, he was born at home. Cost to parents, $50. Cost of medical equipment, $87.50, including the black bag. In his lifetime, a total of $1,700 for health care, mostly out of his own pocket.
Now, like the difference between surgery with a kitchen knife and a laser gamma knife now. It's just that much more expert.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chair recognizes Mr. Tierney. May proceed.
Living memory.
Thank you very much.
What was the state of our health in those good old days? Health care, like everything else, didn't cost.
Thanks for listening to the podcast Ravioli Tourism Open Lines Extravaganza. We'll be back next month with Open Lines on February 12th, 2025 from 9 to midnight on the East Coast of the U.S. If you're in the listening area, tune into WFMU, and if not, WFMU.org is there for you. In February, on Ravioli Tourism, we're going to be talking about trees. Stories, memories, dreams, premonitions, statistics, anything, really, you can think of or want to talk about trees. You can give us a call live on Wednesday, February 12th, or send us a voice memo in advance to tourism@WFMU.org. Have you fallen out of a tree, into a tree? Is there a tree you know and love? A tree you've lost? A tree you dream of? Tell us about it. We'd love to hear from you. tourism@WFMU.org. A big thanks to everyone who called in, sent voice memos for this episode. A special shout out to Corey, who's battling her insurance in preparation for an upcoming gnarly and necessary eye surgery. And thanks to all our friends who share their music with us. I mean, the show sounds good because of that. Lots of thanks this month to Chad Corey of Corey Hall, which is Chad Corey and Andy Hall's duo project. Thanks so much, Chad, for sending that over. Plus all our friends who have contributed music: Command Jasmine, Matt Warwick, Ted Hotelling, Bailey, Goldsboro, Olivia, and myself also occasionally put music into the show. Stay in touch. Find us on Instagram at ohno, that's OHNO0000. If you enjoy the podcast version, leave a review, subscribe, and all that. See you next month.
Contrast to my images he needed. The end result was my neurologist didn't get the images he needed to accurately diagnose my daughter, but that's a state.